Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot for taking out time from your agendas to participate in today's webinar on global record on stocks and fisheries. I'm Sara Garavelli, and I'm the Outreach Manager of the BlueBRIDGE project, which has organized this webinar. A couple of words on BlueBRIDGE for those who are not familiar with it. BlueBRIDGE is an Horizon 2020 project, started a couple of years ago, even if it has a much longer story, as it builds up on the outputs of the previous iMarine project. BlueBRIDGE delivers innovative data services, what we call virtual research environments, or VREs, to support blue growth practitioners in solving their data issues. The purpose of today is to describe and demo one of the most promising BlueBRIDGE tools, which is the Global Record of Stocks and Fisheries VRE. The webinar lasts around 1 hour. You will have the opportunity to ask questions via the GoToWebinar question box. And after the presentation and demo from our speakers that you can see in the camera, we will address all your questions. The recording of the webinar and the presentation will be made available on the bluebridge-vres.eu website since tomorrow. Now, I'm pleased to introduce you our two speakers, both from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. The first one is Aureliano Gentile. Aureliano has been involved in the development of information products in the FAO Fisheries and Aquaculture Department since 2001. He is the focal point for the development of many web components of the current fisheries and aquaculture knowledge base, like the FIRMS database, the BME database, and has large experience in liaising with the regional fishery bodies representatives as part of the FIRMS Partnership Secretariat. The second speaker is Giulia Gorelli, and Giulia is a fisheries information manager in FAO, working mainly with the FIRMS, collating stocks and fisheries data at global scale. Previously, she has been working at the Institute of Marine Sciences of Barcelona for almost 5 years, where she conducted scientific research in fish stock assessment and fisheries management. Okay, I would like to thank you very much, Giulia and Aureliano, and I leave the floor to you.
So, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Let's start presenting the global record of stocks and fisheries, one of the components of the BlueBRIDGE project. Quickly, the outline, we will introduce briefly some details about the GRSF, key methodology and standards we applied for its development. We'll try also a quick live demo. And then during the development, we have identified the future opportunities and what's next in the coming year. So first of all, what is the global record of stocks and fisheries? Its working definition is a comprehensive and transparent inventory of stocks and fisheries records across multiple data providers. Along the project, we have collected data from 3 sources of information: the Fisheries and Resources Monitoring System, the RAM Legacy Stock Assessment Database from the University of Washington, and FishSource, which is a program of the Sustainable Fishery Partnership. By collating these sources, we got results in an increased global data coverage. The GRSF harmonizes different existing standards. We have standards from international, regional, and national, and these data sources are being collated with the aim to build the unique identifiers for stock and fisheries. The GRSF contains information on biological aspects, the stocks, and on fishing activity aspects, the fishing operations, defined as the fisheries. So the information is mainly categorized under these 2 information domains. Where it comes from? It was said that part of the BlueBRIDGE project developed by FAO and other partners. The technical development is carried out by the CNR and FORT. In the footnote of the presentation, the full name, anyway, it's the Italian and Greek Research Institute, who are partners in the BlueBRIDGE project. stock and fishery information, metadata, related tools are available in a VRE of the iMarine initiative. For those who are not well knowledgeable about the VRE, let's say this is our environment where we can run applications together with the data, and this environment are, let's say, limited, can be limited to specific users. This iMarine is the initiative relying on the D4Science infrastructure powered by the CNR, with whom FAO has collaborated for more than 10 years. D4Science actually offers great potential for further developing the GRSF, and we can integrate additional data from other sources on stocks and fisheries. Potential audiences were identified among the RFBs and their member states, the seafood industry, national agencies of governments dealing with stock and fishery reporting, researchers and officers working on global analysis on state of fishery resources, NGOs, and the general public. When we started the design of the development of the GRSF, we have identified the two major business cases, offering key service with the idea to offer key services to stakeholders involved in global, regional, and national state of indicators, as well as public and private actors involved in eco-labeling, traceability, and sustainable fisheries. And here I would like to give the floor to my colleague Giulia, who can further describe the methodology and standards we have applied while developing the. Giulia, please.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I'm going to briefly describe the methodology that was used to create the GRSF knowledge base from the three different database sources. So main steps of this methodology were the database structure design, the selection of data information standards for each database field, creation of the GRSF records from the different database sources, the detection of overlapping GRSF records, and the assignment of unique identifiers to each GRSF record. So as for the first step, database structure design, so the database was structured into two main domains, one containing information on stocks and one containing information on fisheries. And for each of these domains, specific database fields were established. So this is a schematic representation of what a database looks like. So for stocks, we have...
Sorry, to interrupt you. Can you please move closer to the microphone a bit on the other side, because your voice is a bit...
Okay, yes. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, but let me know if there are problems with the sound, please. Thank you. So, as I was saying, the two main domains of the GRSF database, stocks and fisheries, this is a schematic representation of what the database looks like. So, for stocks, we have a field of information containing information on the species, one field containing information on the assessment and the distribution area, and then we have fields of information containing time series of data or indicators like catch time series, abundance level, fishing pressure, or all information and data that is has to do with the stock assessment and the stock status. And for fisheries, we have information on the species, the fishing area, the gear type, the flag state, the management body, and again, we have associated time series of indicators. So as you can see, the fields represented in light blue contain time-independent information, which includes the identification information that identifies each stock and each fishery as a different record. While the fields represented in purple contain time-dependent information, so a time series of data and indicator that can change in time. So the second step of the methodology was the selection of specific data and information standards for each database field. So for example, for the field species, the standard accepted in GRSF for the scientific name and the code is the ASFIS classification. If the species is missing in the ASFIS classification, then the worms classification is used. And a similar process was established for each database field. And this step, of course, implied the need to develop some linkage tables to map any local standard that was used in the database sources to the GRSF accepted standard in order to harmonize all the information included in the GRSF. So the third step was the creation of the GRSF records from the different database sources. So the first step was the extraction of the relevant data and information fill the GRSF fields. Then there was the standardization of the imported data to harmonize all the information using the linkage tables, and then the creation of the various records to create the GRSF knowledge base. So the first step after the records were created was the detection of the overlapping records. So there can be the case when two or more records have got the same time independent information, so the same identification information. Like, for example, there can be the same stock that is present in two database sources. Like, for example, the same stock is present in fish source and RAM. So this information is imported twice in GRSF. But thanks to the standardization of the information, this can be automatically detected, and the two records can be flagged as overlapping, and then after the validation from an expert, they can merge it into one single GRSF record, and all the time-dependent information that was associated to the two records, or the time series of indicators, are collated. So the fifth and last step is the assignment of unique identifiers to each GRSF, fishery, and stock record. So there are three types of identifier. The first type is the universally unique identifier, the UUID, which is a machine-readable identifier that is assigned according to a specific IT protocol. The second type is the semantic identifier, which is a human-readable code that is codified according to a specific convention. And there is the GRSF short title, which is human-readable. Again, it's a more friendly title, let's say. So here is an example. This is a stock where the species is Tunus alalunga, and this is the species code, and this comes from the ASFIS classification. Then the assessment area is the North Atlantic. The assessment area code is ALB-N, and this comes from one of the accepted standards for area. And here we have the UUID for this stock, so the machine-readable code. Here we have the semantic identifier, which, as you can see, is codified as the species code plus the assessment area code. And then we have the short title, which is a more friendly way of naming the stock. Okay, so the section on methodology and standard is finished here, and I give the floor back to Aureliano.
Thank you, Giulia. Yes, now it's the time for a live demo. A few words introducing it. So the GRSF application is based on the iMarine data catalog, which in turn is based on the open source SICAN software for those IT people knowing this. We have designed and built two environments. One is the GRSF per se, the GRSF VRE for the public users with the validated records. And the other one is the GRSF admin VRE for authorized users who manage and validate the records. Today, we will explore the GRSF admin environment. For your information, the knowledge base is built with Matware, is a software made and produced by Fort with semantic web technology using ontologies. And these ontologies are, let's say, the way how we have tried to harmonize and standardize the data, also to mapping rules. So let me jump from the PowerPoint to the browser. You should see my browser now. This is the iMarine gateway accessible from the iMarine website. I just log in and enter the environment, where here I can find all my VREs, and I will enter the GRSF admin and straight to the record management. Here, apologies, you will find now a few more let's say terms. We have here the GRSF catalog, which is the place where we contain all the GRSF records, stocks and fisheries, plus the legacy records, so the source records, the firms, RAM, and feed source. The catalog can be browsed by a search tool or by different type of groups. We have two organizations, so the source records or the GRSF itself, or you can filter by specific groups like the fishery or the stocks or the fishery generated only from a specific source, or by type. As I was telling you, we have stocks and fishery, the two main domain information, which in turn they're further broken down into assessment unit and fishing activity. Assessment unit is basically those stocks for which we have at least one stock assessment information. And the fishing activity is the records describing fishing activity from a fishing operation viewpoint, which includes a species, year, flag state. The others, the fishing description and marine resource, are higher level description of fisheries, which may lack some key information. And then we have the legacy, which again is the source. So the first view would be, let's enter the let's access the entire amount of records, 12,000 records for the time being. These are not yet being validated. Therefore, once will be validated, this number may decrease. This is the overall list of records, paginated in hundreds of pages, obviously. And you see here on top in bold the GRSF and standard name, then the short name, American Place Grand Bank, and the semantic identifiers, as Julia was describing it. We'll see in detail in a second. And if any attached information is provided, in this case, we have a various CSV file. In the left bar, we have different way to narrow down the information by types, by groups, and tags. In this case, I would like to filter by assessment unit. So I'm narrowing down to 2,000 stocks. And then I can further filter as stocks identified from firms database. And finally, I could further filtering by searching an example by Pagellus. Yes, and here let's click on one of it, an example, Pagellus below the Western Gulf of Guinea. This is the example of a GRSF fact sheet or GRSF record page. This is the title, the GRSF standard title, which is made of a scientific name plus geographic area. A short name is usually built with an English common name, but not necessarily English. And you see more details on geographic area, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Togo, and Benin. The semantic identifiers and the UID. This is the unique URL which identifies uniquely this record. particularly this is the UID for this record. A map lightly describing the extent of this monitoring area for this stock or for this assessment unit. The data resource box indicates which are the sources for this information. In this case, is firms, and then a number of time series or attached information, which we'll go visiting in a second. Then we have the stock identity with a number of fields: assessment area, the database source, the semantic identifier, which type of GRSF, short name, species, and so on. And you see, here you have all the values of this information. Ultimately, this stock is by default flagged as suitable for traceability purpose because it satisfies the requirement. In the stock data box, instead, you have the latest information available for this record. While the full-time series are displayed above, here there are some extraction for the latest 4 or 5 years. Further down in the additional information, you will find some metadata for the records management, as well as the unique ID, the QR code, and how this stock is uniquely identified. This stock is, as of today, pending, meaning that it has not been yet revised by an expert who will finally validate. And once validated, this stock will be automatically, this record will be automatically copied and published in the GRSF BRE for public use. Let me scroll back up, and in example, we could see the catch time series. This is associated information extracted from the firm's database. You can download this in CSV format or through the web. You can even generate a map. Sorry, a graph. So this is these are the reference here. These are the values. Yes, you see, and this is a graph generated by the time series provided. Where possible, where feasible, where applicable, you can also generate maps. Okay, let me go back home to the search GRSF, and maybe I can search for flies in the Grand Bank. This is this example of navigation. I make it to show a record from multiple sources. An example, this one. You see, this record is Hypoglossoides platyzoides in the Grand Bank area. This record has been identified by merging multiple sources, in this case, all of them, fish source, RAM, and firms, the three contributing to this. And in example, if we are going to see the abundance level information collected for this record, you see these are the values, and these are the various sources, which is we have a time series for firms or time series for fish source. Okay. Last example would be showing you a fishery. An example, let's still search for Glossoides. And then, sorry. And then let me narrow down for fishing by fishing activities. And these are a number of results. All these are fisheries. Let's take this one, an example. This is an example of a fishery record. And a fishery record is identified by the species, the area, the management entities, the corresponding, let's say, jurisdiction area for the management entities, the flag state, and the gear. These elements, when all of them are available, make this fishing activity flaggable for traceability purpose. And all these are upon specific standards. All fisheries are similarly to the stocks contain the data resource box, the identity box, and the attached data. Ultimately, you will find the unique ID and the QR. Okay, with this, I would close the live demo and go back to the slides. Here we are. So, while developing the project, we have identified a number of topics which would deserve.
Aureliano, sorry.
Yes, please.
The audio now is not very good, so try to assume the same position of 5 minutes before. Okay.
Yes, okay. I hope you are hearing me now better.
Not really.
Okay, give me a second.
Okay, now it's perfect.
Now it's perfect. Very good.
Don't move.
Don't move. Okay. Okay. So I was saying that during the development, I've identified a few topics which would deserve further work on it and development even beyond the GRSF project. In example, standardization for area management entity. For area, we have identified that in some cases, special codes they are available.
Sorry, but you're very difficult to understand. Can you? I think you are too close to the microphone. Try this.
Can we try it like this?
Yes, this is perfect. Thank you.
So in some cases, the special codes are not always adequate for representing, identifying the assessment areas, fishing areas, or jurisdiction. Also, we have created a repository of management entities, which are a local registry for national and international organization with mandate on monitoring and management. And this repository also change across time, so we may need a better standard for that, and also finding ways to maintain it. We have identified a number of products and services. An example, assignment publication of the UIDs for new fisheries, and publication of information and data for individual success fishery. Services which could summarize the stock status at different geographic levels. An example, give me all the stocks for the North Atlantic within a certain status of exploitation. Or service to download available data by applying specific filters. Inclusion of data that is currently not today publicly available. This slide somehow summarizes the vision. Let's imagine that whatever fish bean in the world could be enriched with this additional label specifying which species is coming from which population. So here we have information on species, the area, management authority, the jurisdiction, the gear, flag state, and the identifiers, as well as we say, identifiers which are machine readable, okay, and the UID, and the human readable, which at the end build this type of labels. And so, yes, there are many stakeholders who believe that the future global demand is based on this standardized fishery identifiers. We can associate additional information. So stocks and fishery could be, this UID could be grouped into families. So we should find a way how to do it. And also to this UID, we can concatenate additional information from other sources. An example, information on vessel types, on fisheries communities, company names, by exploiting a different technology, not excluding the blockchain technologies. This is the last slide. What's next? The project will end on February 2018. Then we will release the GRSF records in the public environment and by validating all of them. There are a group of people finalizing the governance and sustainability model for this initiative, and then who also should identify the services which should be implemented. For your information, in upcoming meetings, we have now the EAB TWG taking a working group meeting with the firms taking a working group on GRSF in Rome on the second week of February. And then we have a iMarine advisory board meeting in Brussels, and the BlueBRIDGE panel event the day after, 15th of February in Brussels as well. So with this, we say thank you, and we our apologies for the audio if it was not perfect. And let's give the floor back to our moderator. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Giulia and Aureliano. I think it was very, very good and interesting. There is a question from the audience that says, can I retrieve the stock status through a web service? Is there an API?
So first of all, the GRSF catalog.
Sorry, Aureliano, try to talk with the camera really in front of you. So move towards the center, because I think this is the issue. Try.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. So the GRSF catalog is offering APIs for all the downloadable materials. So already today, many sets of information can be downloaded through API. The idea is also to develop specific services to satisfy this type of demand. It's just a matter to identify exactly which type of services, which type of data should be retrieved, and in which form, and so on. And then, yes, this would be feasible.
Okay. At the moment, let me see if there are any other questions. Okay, another question. What plans are there to add other sources? And what is then the copyright? So about the copyright and other sources.
Yes, so let me start from the copyright. Let's say that code in the Baltic not necessarily requires an intellectual property. So somehow the identification of the GRSF record is, if I can say, free of copyright, in the sense that I could make whatever classifications, although it falls under the who is distributing this. It's a different aspect is for the associated data, and this data, the copyright reside under the data owners, if I can use this word, and therefore there would be also a specific terms of use for the data upon specific agreements among the data providers. As of today, the GRSF is within the, it is distributed within the D4Science platform. which is powered by the CNR. So somehow that is the distributor competent authority. But then we are in the developing of the sustainability model. Also, these aspects are going to be tackled and well defined. And the other question was on the
if there are any plans to add any other sources.
For the other sources, yes, absolutely. Yes, in the business case of the GRSF, willing to support the dissemination and monitoring of stock status, the idea is that also other institutions and why not countries, they can contribute submitting their information within the GRSF. So yes, the project has started with 3, if I can say, champions, but then the platform is fully designed to host as many sources as possible. Indeed, with the ultimate goal to achieve a wider coverage as wider as possible.
But how long does it take to the integration of a new source?
Well, this depends who is which is the new source and how many records. So there are many factors affecting this. But let's say following the standards, and if the data are well standardized or compliant with the GRSF standard, which are mostly relying on global and international standards, in that case, the upload of new information would not be too complex.
Okay, and always we have a question on do you know how many other known data sources could be taken into GRSF?
Well, yes, there are ideas of other sources who can contribute. But let's imagine that every country with having universities or research centers working on stock assessment or management of fishery resources, they potentially are eligible. It's also a matter to identify authoritative sources and with reliable data.
Yes, and exactly the question related to reliability of the data sources. So someone is asking, if I add pirates of the Caribbean stocks, how are these records validated? So what's the validation process behind?
So this is also, this part is very important, and it will be part of this ongoing sustainability model. Let's say that there will be a sort of a GRSF board made of experts, and Julia explained this in the sense that we need to have an expert validation. So the GRSF algorithm, the knowledge base, is capable to detect similar information based on standards. So the application is suggesting merge of information, collation of data, and so on. But then the last word is to find an expert or a board of experts who has to validate the record one by one. This must be clear. And therefore, the pirates of the Caribbean will have a tough life, because if they even could pass the first step, but then probably they won't pass the other validation steps.
Okay. Then there is a question related to governance. So which is the governance model for GRSF?
First of all, I would highlight the fact that we are envisaging public center partnership with the involvement of also the private sector. You can imagine that if this unique identifier will find its own way and will take off. The unique identifier serves, yes, as for uniquely identifying stocks and therefore for their monitoring, but also for fisheries. And this can be applied for traceability, certification schemes, and so on. Can be these unique identifications could be really functional to many needs, and therefore also the possibility to involve the private sector, the industry, but not only, also artisanal fisheries could be very interesting. It has its own potentialities. This is all matters which are on the table for discussion. And as I was showing in that slide on the upcoming meetings, this is a topic for those meetings to provide answers.
Okay. And finally, how and if you contribute to the Sustainable Development Goal 14? SDG 14.
Yeah, no, SDG 14 is very clear. The first part of your question, how, what?
How and if you contribute to that?
Yes, as we were saying, this one of the two business cases of the GRSF development was the support to the SDG 14.4.1, which is the proportion of stocks sustainably exploited. So let's say this is this application and the overall development is focused on dissemination and monitoring, and the GRSF can be a place where you can store results of evaluation of the state of stocks indicators. You store it over there and you disseminate and you apply specific services for monitoring in whatever way it is desired. So this is exactly one of the two reasons why we developed the GRSF. And as you can see in this one slide about the GRSF is indeed here summarized, the stakeholders involved in global, regional, and national state of stocks indicators. And the other one, as I was saying, is on traceability. Please.
Okay, so I don't think we have any other questions. No. So I would like to thank you again, both you and Giulia, for the very nice presentation. I apologize again for the audio towards our participants. And I think we can, unless you want to add any further remark, I guess we can close the webinar.
No, yes, I think we can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.